Well, hi there, and welcome to this webcast. My name is Jonathan Foust, and I'm glad you're here. Welcome to this meditation and Dharma talk. I really appreciate you making the time to be here. Before we begin, a couple acknowledgments. First of all, a thank you to our mindful movement teacher, to Rita Moran. If you'd like to join her at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, you can do so through a Zoom link, which is on my Facebook page and on my website. It's a great thing. Thank you, Rita, for all you do. Also, thank you to the Insight Meditation Community of Washington and to Glenn Harrison, our producer, for getting this out to you via all this great technology. All these talks are available on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, everywhere fine podcasts can be downloaded. I do have a mailing list sign up. There's a weekly to let you know what's coming up. And then a couple times a year, I send out kind of a compendium of my talks, my best photography, other things like that. So let's see. And in addition, this is all offered freely. There's no barrier to entry. No subscriber thing, no nothing. So it's available for everyone. The whole idea is no one should be denied access to practices and teachings. So if you feel inspired to support this by making a donation, that would be great. If not, that's totally fine. I'm going to keep doing this for a little while longer. Next big thing, I am leading a day-long retreat on January 11th called The Most Important Thing. It's around setting intention around the new year. And in fact, the following talk is going to be about how to do that. If you can't make the day-long and you want to explore some reflections on how to bring more mindful intention into your life, keep listening. Alrighty, let's see. Let's dive into a little meditation, and then we'll jump into the talk. So to begin with, you might like to move your body around, let out any sounds, any primal screams, anything along those lines. And then as you're ready, let yourself begin to turn your attention inward. You might like to close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, slow down your breath. You might find it helpful to slow down your breath by counting your breath. Perhaps breathing in to the count of 4 on the inhalation and then gently exhaling to the count of 4 on the breath out. And with the breath slow and smooth, notice how it might begin to draw your attention more inward and also more aware of this whole realm of feeling. If you just turn your attention now to the experience of the breath on the inside, to the perception of any pulse or tingling or vibration or subtle energy, what do you feel? What do you notice? And you may already have a sense of foreground and background. If you feel your breath in the foreground, can you sense almost, let's say simultaneously, this background of changing sensations? Pulse, tingling, vibration. Even the perception of thought forms, commentary. And you may find it helpful to sharpen your attention to the breath for the next few minutes. Just notice, first of all, where you feel the breath and how intimately you can contact the experience of the breath. You might explore, could you relax your breath even more? And notice if relaxation might usher in a deepening sense of presence, a deepening sense of awareness of this feeling realm, this felt sense of the here and now. And you might sense as well, if it's possible to both relax and sharpen your concentration, you might explore the following question from time to time. The breath here is unregulated, it's free-flowing. Ask yourself the following. Is this next inhalation shorter or longer than the inhalation preceding it? Is this inhalation shorter or longer than the inhalation preceding it? And again, just notice and feel what arises in this question. From time to time, you might explore, is there anything that could soften or relax inside right now? Is there anything that could let go? An interesting moment is the moment that you notice that your mind is far, far away, lost in a story, lost in a thought bubble. And here, rather than rushing back to the experience of breath, you might just take your time and you might explore, again, what could soften or relax right now? What could let go? How intimately can you immerse awareness into this realm of sensation and feeling, vibration, subtle energy? And you might sense as well what it means for you to take the seat of the witness, to be the observer of what's changing. And noticing in your own way the streams of change, the stream of shifting sensations, the stream of the narrative or thought forms, the stream of mood and emotion, the stream of different states. All this change, and yet this still quality of non-judging awareness, the observer, the witness. And what could relax or soften right now? How intimately can you feel this moment as it's changing? And is it possible to let things be? You might explore in these remaining minutes gently shifting your practice from a sense of doing to a sense of being, of resting in presence. Allowing everything to be as it is, and again, resting back in this sense of the witness, noticing what's changing, and asking yourself, can I let this be just as it is? As you sense inside, and as you sense the movement of the mind, is there anything that could let go or soften right now? Is there anything that could let go or soften even more? And now just dropping all technique. Just relax and feel. You might gently deepen your breath. Invite your body to move or shift, adjust in any way that might work for you. What would feel good? How would you like to move right now? And as you're ready, very gently beginning your transition. And welcome back. Here's a famous story about Mahatma Gandhi. He was asked what he thought of Western civilization, and he said, I think it's a great idea. He has been and is an inspiration for countless people on the planet. And while he definitely had his inconsistencies in his life, he was steadfast in living a life according to his highest standards. It's an amazing story. If you haven't read the biographies on Mahatma Gandhi, his life transformation is quite amazing. And there's one thing he said that really struck me. When he was asked toward the end of his life, what is your message? He reportedly said, my life is my message. My life is my message. That's pretty inspiring, isn't it? To know that you have lived a life being true to yourself, that you have lived a life according to your highest aspirations. I'm not sure I could say the same thing. My life is my message. Be sure to become fascinated with Apple products and technology. But it opens up a question. What does it mean to live a life of integrity? To live by your deepest values? Here we are at the end of the year, and it's time where I put myself through the excruciating process of my annual review. I got inspired by this a number of years ago by James Clear, and I try to be as ruthlessly honest as I can about what worked, about what didn't work, and I ask myself, what's the most important thing now and in the year ahead? I have this written up if you're at all interested. I'll have it on my website. And I'll touch into pieces of it a little bit in the following talk. And also just to say in the spirit of shameless promotion, that I'm offering a day-long retreat on January 11th, exploring this topic if you'd like to join in. It's called The Most Important Thing. Beginning your year with mindful intention. It's online, and you can find it through my website and through the IMCW website. But what I'd like to talk about with the time I have with you here, first, talk about the importance of finding your North Star. What is the most important thing? You got to figure that out. Then I'd like to explore two models. One is a model through the lens of positive psychology, which is a great way to kind of assess how you're doing in life. Another model is called the roles and goals model, which comes from Stephen Covey, to really just sense, okay, what are the roles that you are playing in life? And then what's the highest aspiration for each one of those roles? And then I'll share a little bit about the whole practice of self-observation without judgment. And I'll share a little bit from my annual review and try to fess up. First of all, give myself permission to brag and give myself permission to say what didn't work in my life. And we'll have a little reflection time in there for you. In fact, lots of reflection in the time ahead. So if you can't make the day long, this might be a helpful talk to listen to, and pause whenever you need to. So the North Star. When I was in college, I had a series of old decrepit motorcycles I'd buy for very, very little money. And then I would sell them for even less money. And one fellow reached out to me and asked about buying my motorcycle. At that time, in case you're interested, a Honda 305 Super Hawk. And we agreed on a price, this grand sum of $300. And I was excited because I was going to get out exactly what I put into this bike 6 months ago. So I gave him the title, he signed it, and he told me he'd get the money soon. Really, really sweet guy. I know he's a hockey fan and a hockey player. Seemed really kind, and also the kind of guy who would be a really good friend. Well, I didn't hear back from him, and I heard just a few days later that he had died in his sleep. There was some swelling of the brain, and he was gone. And I was deeply shocked. I was just talking to this guy, and now he's gone. He was my age. He was like my size. He's my kind of temperament. And boom, gone. I went to his funeral. I kind of met his parents. When I think about it now, if I had been able to channel my inner Larry David, I probably would have asked his mom for the $300 back, but I didn't. That was a very powerful experience for me of impermanence. Someone here, someone who I liked, someone who just disappeared. And this is the classic story of the Buddha's journey, of even an allegory if you look at it. That when you encounter sickness, old age, and death, you are deeply reminded of impermanence. The fourth element in the Buddha's experience, to share you this, to spare you the whole story, is he also, when he encountered sickness, old age, and death, he also encountered a renunciate. He encounters someone living simply just wearing very simple robes, who had a quality of happiness about him, a quality of joy about him. And of course, that sparked his path. And we all have to do this in our own way. And for some, it's one or the other. Sickness or old age or death. Sometimes it's a combination. But I thought a lot about his death. It really rocked my world, and it really made me think about my priorities at the tender age of 21 or whatever I was back then. And then I kind of forgot about him. Even now, I can't remember his last name. I got lost in the trance of someone on his way somewhere, which of course is what we all do. We have these shocking moments of recognizing impermanence, and then we forget. And forgetting is part of the human experience, and remembering is also part of the human experience. Remembering is the coming back to what's most important. And so, if we really embrace impermanence, I love the rocking chair test. Imagine yourself sitting on your rocker, 102 years old, on the front porch, looking back over your life. And if you imagine that, if just for a moment, you can close your eyes or not, how do you want to feel toward the end of your life? If you imagine yourself toward the end of your life, looking back, what advice might that wise being have for you? What right now is undone? What might you let go of that you're holding on to that's not necessary? That's pretty much it for this talk. You can sign off right now if you want. Reflecting on your death and asking yourself, what is undone? What is, what is most important? You don't need much more than that reflection. Given the fact that you will die along with everyone you know and love in no particular order, how do you want to live? What do you prioritize? Can we remember that becomes the question. I cannot imagine getting in a car now without a GPS. I've become so ridiculously reliant on GPS that I've lost all sense of direction, especially here in the DC area. There are no mountains to navigate by. Back before there was GPS, and if you were traveling by boat, your GPS was the stars. You would set sight on a particular star as your guiding post. And as often as you could, you would determine your course in relationship to that star. It was cloudy weather, you just kept going by your last reckoning, and as soon as the clouds cleared, again, you would check. And even though on your boat there were tides and currents and winds that would move you all over the place, you'd continue to navigate by that star. It's the same in life. What is your guiding star? What is your North Star? And I'm curious as to how you would articulate that for yourself. There are lots of words you might use. I think unconsciously, we spend most of our life force either trying to avoid domination or dominating others. There's an element of survival here. But there's also an element of thriving. Some of the classic North Stars is being happy, having an awakened heart and awakened mind, feeling free from stress and suffering, having peace of mind. And I think part of the inquiry around defining your North Star is finding the words or phrase that most resonate for you. It's almost like an aspirational vibration. So to really ask yourself, what words resonate for you? Different ones have resonated for me at different times. I love the phrase being happy for no reason. Free from suffering isn't bad. A deep peace of mind. Awakened heart and mind. Getting a sense of what words resonate for you can become your set point. And I find it's important to kind of work through which ones really resonate for you. Able to manipulate others to your will, that's kind of a good one. But you got to sit with them and get a sense of what that means for you. For me, there's something here about awakened heart and awakened mind that I find helpful. So I'd like to share kind of some models for self-reflection to help you explore a little bit of assessment as to how you're doing in relationship to your North Star, whether you have it defined or not. I'd like to share a little bit about the model or the filter of positive psychology. Martin Seligman was a leader in the realm of positive psychology, and in essence, rather than focusing on qualities of mental illness and dysfunction, positive psychology in essence is looking at what makes life good and how to cultivate those qualities. It's about how to build a life of meaning and a life of purpose, how to move beyond thriving to flourishing, and to really explore what are the elements of a good life. So the acronym is PERMA, P-E-R-M-A, and I thought I would just offer you some questions. We're going to explore these 5 elements of positive psychology. So again, you can close your eyes or not. The first element here is positive emotion. To what degree do you have access to hope, to interest and joy, to love and compassion, to amusement and gratitude? To what degree do you have access to these uplifting emotions? And what uplifts you, inspires you in your life? What are you grateful for? The next exploration here is exploring the E of engagement. What do you love? What do you do where you lose track of time? To what degree are you living in the moment? What do you excel in that gives you pleasure? The third element here is the R of relationships. To what degree do you have quality relationships in your life? Are you satisfied with the intimacy you have in your life right now? Do you have friendships that you enjoy? The fourth exploration is around having a sense of meaning. To what degree do you have a sense of purpose in your life? Do you have meaning in your profession or in your creativity or spirituality or politically? To what degree do you feel passion in your life? The fifth element here is, to what degree do you feel a sense of achievement in your life? To what degree do you have a sense of mastery or competence? To what degree do you have perseverance and passion that moves you toward a goal? And very briefly, on a scale of 1 to 5, as a summary here, how would you rate yourself in having access to positive emotions? Scale of 1 to 5. The quality of engagement, what you excel in, what gives you, fills you with passion, what you lose yourself in. How would you rate yourself in the realm of engagement? And the quality of relationships, of intimacy, of friendships, 1 to 5. Having meaning, a sense of purpose, passion, 1 to 5. And a sense of accomplishment, achievement, 1 to 5. If you like, you can open your eyes if they've been closed. I find these assessments can be really helpful, particularly when we're really true to ourselves. And I find that some folks excel in some areas and not so much in others. And certainly I know for myself, maybe a strong sense of purpose, but sacrificing relationships and intimacy toward creating a goal to get there. Many people find that when they explore what it means to have accomplishment, their focus has been on the externals rather than internally feeling that deep satisfaction that comes from accomplishing something important to you. I like the framework of this model because it's not so much based on lack as it's based on possibility. And if just for a moment, imagine a life filled with purpose, engaged in ways that really light you up, relationships that are deeply satisfying, a deep sense of meaning and the satisfaction that comes from perseverance and focus and dedication to what's most important in your life. Pretty juicy model. And I have to confess that part of my focus on the annual review I do every year comes out of some fear and anxiety. A sense that if I don't really focus, I'm going to miss out on something. I'm not going to optimize every possibility in my short little lifespan here. And that's sort of a byproduct of being a spiritual aspirant, or we could say being spiritually greedy. I've shared in the past how living in a spiritual community, we would do the most outrageous practices all in the name of being more awake. It's just crazy stuff. And I used to joke how I wanted to have a sign-up sheet on a bulletin board that would say, sign up here for a humiliating and degrading, but potentially liberating experience. And I know that within an hour, there'd be 200 names signed up there. So this model of PERMA, positive emotion, engagement, relationship, meaning, and accomplishment, points toward a very enlivened life, the possibility of an enlivened life. It also, when you reflect, can show you where there may be some growth opportunities. If you don't have a sense of positive emotion, to really look at, so what's between you and feeling more happy, feeling more free? What's there to mine? If you're not feeling engaged, what's that all about? If you're not satisfied with relationships or friendship or intimacy, is there something inside us blocking you? If there's no sense of really strong meaning or purpose, to take time to really be with that. And if there's a lack of accomplishment, of achievement, again, take some time to explore. Another model that I have found helpful, and I thought I would just share it here as just another reflection, is the roles and goals model. And I ran across this, many, many years ago, reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I found this helpful because it helped to kind of simplify goal setting. The whole idea here is to identify the different roles that you play in life. Spiritual aspirant, child, sibling, partner, teacher, creative, entrepreneur, athlete. So I thought what I might do is just offer some of the roles in life that you might play. I'll mention the role and you might reflect on what would be your highest expression of that role. And I recommend you explore what it feels like to inhabit that role. Like, what would it feel like if you were fully expressed in that role? And there's a whole process here of nailing down the specific goals, but I thought just here it might be helpful just to kind of sense, okay, so what would it feel like if, as a friend, I fully inhabited that role? So these are some of the roles. Some may be relevant, some may not. As you reflect on who you are as a spiritual seeker, what would the full expression of that feel like inside? If you are a son or a daughter, just notice what comes to mind. If you are a father or a mother, sensing this role in life. If you are a sibling, what is the highest expression of that role? As a friend, as a wage earner, what does that feel like inside when you reflect on who you are, how you'd like to be as a wage earner in the world? As a creative, as an athlete, as someone who is a helper, a well-wisher of all. And are there any other roles that come to mind? If you like, you can deepen your breath. You can open your eyes if you haven't already. You might consider this as a way to sort of just see how you're doing in life, to check out how your aspirations match the roles that you play in life. So that's from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And by the way, the 7 habits, according to Stephen Covey, the first is to begin with the end in mind. When you take anything on, think about what is the end result that I'm looking for. And as I often say, if you've listened to me yak in the past, how do I want to feel at the end? And sort of like backfill it. The second habit is to put first things first. Do the most important things first, and you get the adrenaline rush of accomplishment. This is great. Third is to think of win-win. What's a win for you? What's a win for the other? And when you orient yourself around that, your effectiveness can go up. The fourth is to seek to understand before being understood. Fifth is to look for synergy, to look for connection, aliveness in everything you're doing. And the final, and maybe last but not least, is what Stephen Covey calls sharpening the saw. Like taking time to really take deep care of yourself, or what I often will say is fill your cup so it's overflowing. There's a beauty to these that I really like. There's a lot of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you think of the end result before you begin, it can clarify the steps. Once you have the steps and you can do the most important things first, there's a momentum that can shift. When you think of a win-win and seek to understand before being understood, you're developing that sense of synergy. And when you really focus on filling your cup, there's such a difference when you are coming from a place of overflow as opposed to a place of lack. So one of the things that's challenging, there are a number of challenges when we think about aspiration. We have a tendency to focus on the form of what it looks like. But there's also something about really focusing on the essence, on the feeling. All these models point to aspiration, to possibility. But it's important to point out that there's a shadow side to all this, is that there can be an implicit sense of lack. If you've got high standards, it's going to demonstrate how you're falling short. And that's not just an in the moment thing, it's sort of a chronic perspective on life. If you are constantly striving and never really succeeding, it can be kind of insufferable. And to take it all the way out, I don't know if it's all the way out, but pretty far out, it's the effort itself that creates suffering. It's so important to kind of acknowledge the non-dual folks who are saying the source of your suffering is looking for happiness. What you're really looking for is already here. Or as Werner Erhard famously said, the quickest way to be happy is to choose what you already have. So there's that, truly to consider. So, given all of this, that what you seek is already here, life goes on, and we are a work in progress. So, a final reflection has to do with the three questions that I ask myself. And I'll share a little bit and we'll kind of close with a reflection here. When I think about what's working in my life, when I look back over this last year, I'm doing pretty well. I've had a very happy domestic life. Other than this last 6 weeks with COVID and walking pneumonia, I'm ridiculously helpful. Helpful. I'm ridiculously helpful. And put quotes on that one. I have a very rich internal practice. This year, I opted to take Social Security, so there's sort of like a sense of like financial well-being. This thing I've never experienced for like 25 years called auto deposit, pretty cool. I have a bunch of creative projects that have been satisfying. I went through this massive purge simplification process this year where I just got rid of so much extraneous stuff. I went through all my tech gear. I went through everything and just kind of removed what's not necessary. And wow, I have to say, physical clutter is psychic clutter. That just feels really, really good. So there's a lot that worked. I'm healthy. I've got a rich inner world. I feel safe as anyone could feel in the world. I have great connections. I've got creative work that feels really good. If I look at what didn't work, if I honestly look at what didn't work, well, there's this project I mentioned before, transforming your relationship to pain. It's a pretty complex project, and I struggled to produce it this year. A lot of it is written and scripted, but it's still not done for a number of reasons, some having to do with some inner psychic resistance, some having to do with just the available bandwidth, some having to do with being really down for the last 6 weeks when I had it scheduled. I continue to create stuff, but I don't organize it or curate it. I've got thousands and thousands of images that are without keywords. My talks are not indexed. I'm aware that I may be too comfortable teaching online, that there's something about teaching live that's just really, really juicy. Maybe I want to explore that. This year, I hit some hard emotional stuff. I became aware of some very, very deep conditioning that is very, very troubling that I need to address. And I live in a constant question whether I'm doing enough, the balance between serving and savoring. Given all this, when I think about what calls me, the most important thing for me is to live from a place of awakened heart and mind. I can't imagine anything more important than that. It's like a pearl and a string of pearls. You pick up one pearl, they all come with it. So I've dramatically upgraded my meditation practice, and I intend to keep that going. Having been sick for 6 weeks with COVID and walking pneumonia, I'm really aware of how investing into my health really important. So I got a whole protocol I follow on that, and I'm following Brian Johnson, who does this crazy testing and so forth. But I'm kind of excited about that. Cultivating more radiant emotional health. I recognize I need to do some inner work. I need to do some mining in terms of my own inner psychology. I want to continue to let go of what's no longer needed, live as simply as I can, and kind of enjoy what comes from there. In terms of serving, my intention is to keep the podcast going as long as it's working, and supporting the year-long Year of Living Mindfully program alumni, to offer some retreats this year, to work one-on-one with people when I have time. It's very, very fulfilling. And I'm really considering offering another Year of Living Mindfully starting this spring, which is a big, big thing. Creativity just fills me up, and so I want to continue with my photography and video, writing talks, and so forth. And mostly, and I think this is part of my own maturation around my annual review, is to stay open and stay in the flow. I'm recognizing deeper and deeper and deeper that life happens while I'm making plans. It really is. So to stay open for life to present itself. So that's just a little overview. If you want the details, you can read more. But I wanted to offer you this reflection. So if you like, you can close your eyes if that works for you. And to simplify this, and you might want to maybe do this with some journaling or reflection, or come to this day-long I'm leading. When you think about this last year, what worked? Can you think of 3 to 5 things that are really clicking, that really work, that give you a sense of accomplishment and feeling good as you look back? Take the next 30 seconds. And reflecting now, what didn't work? Well, where do you sense maybe you fell short of your aspirations? What unexpected things showed up that interfered with your intention? And finally, exploring this question. When you sense this year ahead, the first question is, what is the most important thing? What are a few things that call you forward, that enliven you when you think about this year ahead? You might like to deepen your breath and open your eyes. That's a short little inquiry, of course. But if you're drawn, I encourage you, take some time and really, really sit down. List what worked, what didn't work, and take some time to really sense what enlivens you, what calls you in the future. And it's so important. Kind of as the punchline to this whole talk, there are two paths. What is the path of self-improvement? It's the path of means, of becoming better. The other path is the path of liberation. And there's a paradox here. We seek, and the seeking underscores our struggle. And there are those who say everything you want is already here. A lot of those people have done a lot of hard work to get to that place. And the question becomes, and I think this is where I always end up, is honoring what we could call the pathless path. Ultimately, when we really sift down, we come to a place of what we could call choiceless choice. It's the things that you can't not do. And it requires deep listening. What is the most important thing in your life? What is your North Star? Listening and responding and evaluating. That's the key, as far as I can tell. What is the most important thing in your life right now? I hope some of these reflections have been helpful for you. It's a grueling process to really honestly ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I falling short of my aspirations? What's my growing edge? And what is it that I can't not do? What is an expression of my highest intent? I so wish you well. May your path, may your journey be filled with unexpected delights and pleasures. Thank you so much for taking the time, and best wishes.